Hello, I'm BrigantiaBlackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Thursday, and welcome to this video where we're going to be talking about reveling in summer. This summer for me has been about rediscovering an old love, the love of the summer season. And as a child, I lived for it. And it wasn't only because school was out, although that was a huge factor. But when I look back, I can recognize just how tuned in I was with the energy of the season, and I loved it. I have memories of my grandma's house, her library in the basement that had this built-in bookshelves and all kinds of books and stories that just stoked my imagination. I remember playing on the typewriter in that room as I felt the writing bug bite me for the first time in my life, and I was creating stories of my own. I remember drawing on the sidewalk with chalk, picking the raspberries, going swimming, playing croquet with my little brother, and just having a sense that everything around me was fully alive, all was well with the world, and it was just this intense sense of being nurtured. I didn't realize it at that time, but that sensation was actually the energy of nature itself, just pouring into my system, energizing me even further. And it was at my grandmother's house in particular that I really picked up on this. There was, and I suppose still is, an atmosphere about the place. It's one of the few places on earth where I've experienced a true sense of belonging, and it had nothing to do with my relatives. It was the land itself. And the feeling was always strong, but I really felt it during the summer. And probably because I was outdoors more and doing more things outside in the sunshine and getting all connected in with that energy. But as a child, during the summer, I had more time on my hands, and this was the pre-internet age, so I had fewer distractions. I wasn't constantly on devices or playing video games like kids are now. And so because of that, it was just easier to let my mind wander and absorb the atmosphere. It was almost like an instinctive form of meditation. So let's talk about embracing the high points of summer. There's no getting around the reality that the heat of summer can be utterly brutal, but there's no reason to reduce anything to its least pleasant aspects. The worst of something does not tell the whole story or even the true story of what it is. Although I admit it's hard to maintain that attitude during the most sweltering of days. This past Saturday, it was a whopping 97 degrees, and I was not happy about anything. I admit it. But even so, one of the benefits of the heat, even at its worst, is that it brings everything in life down to a slower pace. We have so much focus on efficiency and accomplishing as much as possible at all times that it's easy to lose sight of everything that's outside of the to-do list. It's easy to lose sight of the things that we miss, those little details, the nuances, the fun bits, if we're walking calmly along instead of, power running down our way through life. And running full steam all the time, just without this let up, that isn't very healthy, is it? I mean, look at the people who try to do that, and look what a mess they are, within themselves, within their relationships, their home life. It's just, they can do this one thing all the time and they can obsess over it, but everything else falls apart. And if you are working all the time, when do you ever enjoy the rewards of that work? Seeing the fruitage of our labor helps restore us, especially if we get to enjoy the fruitage of that labor. And it also refuels us because it's a reminder of why all of that effort is worth it. But we're not going to get that reminder if we never stop. And see, summer is the season of gestation, both literally and spiritually. And that sense of laziness that permeates the very air we breathe, it exists because this is a season of gradual growth. It isn't the excitement of planting or the frenzy of harvesting. There's nothing in particular to do. Just water things, nurture, and allow it to grow. This isn't an active process. It's just something that naturally unfolds in its own time, in its own way, and our role is to be patient, both with our gardens and life in general and ourselves. And I admit that I do find myself struggling a little bit to keep up with my schedule and do all the things that I do want to accomplish. That's a siren song of rest and relaxation and just read your book in the sunshine and enjoy it. It's doing its best to lure me away and distract me on a daily basis. So I have taken to spending as much time as possible outdoors. I know my vampire complexion doesn't reveal that, but I'm pale. There's not a whole lot the sun can do to work with me, but I am spending a lot of time outdoors. I'm doing a lot of my writing and a lot of my creative work when it comes to the posts. Just outside on the front porch. My laptop works perfectly well there. There's no reason not to. I don't have to be hidden away inside as long as the heat isn't too outrageous. And one of the benefits of doing this, despite the fact that I currently live in town, you'd actually be surprised by how much wildlife I see. And that's another thing that helps keep me tuned in, not just the heat and the atmosphere, but also being able to see the little critters in the neighborhood. And of course, we have the usual cats that are roaming around, and occasionally there are some dogs that get loose before their owners track them down. Only the other day, there are these two itty bitty dogs who were running laps around the block, very excited. Clearly, they had escaped and they were doing things they weren't supposed to, so they were making the most of that moment. And after a while, I saw their poor owner trying to catch them. So I don't know how long that took, but it was a while. But in addition to that, there are always rabbits, kind of hopping around. There's lots of birds in the trees, tons of squirrels, one of which likes to scold me. Apparently, when I'm on the porch, I'm taking up space it requires for other purposes. So, there's that. But I also frequently see raccoons, beavers, foxes, even deer. And by frequently, I mean I see these things about every 2 to 3 days at least, for sure. And I also get to see their babies and I get to watch them get bigger. Last year in particular, there was a little family of raccoons. There were six little babies, and they were just little bitty, and they were just kind of following mom around. And then they got big and fluffy and fat, and they were just so adorable. Thankfully, they weren't causing a ruckus in my yard. I'm not sure about some of the other neighbors, but still, it was cute to see. And then, of course, there's the plants, the tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers that I planted. They're all still alive and growing. So the dream of eating homegrown veggies still remains alive. And the marigolds I planted are finally getting bigger and bushier, and they're blooming more regularly. And then when we go out to the farm, right now the daylilies are putting on an absolutely amazing show. They have this really soft peachy orange color to their petals, and it's just this wave, this ocean of that color just kind of drifting in the breeze. And my rose of Sharon, which is a very light pink, that has bloomed as well, which is pretty unusual because in years past I had to wait until August, sometimes late August, to see the flowers. So I guess where it's planted now, it's feeling pretty good. It's getting what it needs. It's happy, and I get to see the pretty stuff. And it's wonderful to be surrounded by all this life, whether I'm at the house in town or whether we're out at the farm doing things. I'm just surrounded by life and all of that humming and vibration as it's just going steadily along. And that is what's making the extremes of all this heat worthwhile. So that's how I'm enjoying the season. How do you make the most of your summer season? Do you have a bucket list the way some people do? Are there traditions that you like to make sure that you always get to enjoy at this time of year? Let me know in the comments below, or come see me on Discord at Blackbird's Brew. There's a link to join in the description box below, and we'd all love to see you there. But I think that's it for now, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.